Okay, I'd like to call the Comox Valley Regional District Regular Board Meeting of Tuesday, August 30th to order. Welcome, everyone. We're on the traditional unceded territory of the Comox First Nation. And today I will read Call to Action 11 from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada Call to Action Report. We call upon the federal government to provide adequate funding to end the backlog of First Nation students seeking a post-secondary education. And with that, we move to our in-camera, which we'll be going to at the end of this meeting. Grant and Arbor, thank you. All in favor? That's unanimous, thank you. And I would like to put forward that we vary the agenda and bring forward item F3 for Director Lee and item G6, which is the noise bylaw. Grieve and Arbor, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried, thank you. So we'll go to F3 first. Thank you, Arbor and Morin. Any discussion on those minutes? Director Arbor?
Is there a little update on the water repair at from the Black Creek? I understand that it had a good outcome. We don't have engineering today?
We do. Vivian Shaw is the acting general manager, but was not prepared for an update on it, but it is fixed. I can tell you that, yes.
Thank you.
And Director Lee?
No, I don't have anything more to add. That's great.
Okay,
F3 is dealt with, so I'll be leaving.
okay. Have a good evening.
I'll see you on Thursday at the solid waste thing.
Oh, yeah, we haven't quite voted yet, so just stay on for that part.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor of receipt? Anyone opposed? That's carried, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, have a good evening.
See you
Okay,
Thursday.
Okay, so next we'll move to G6. Oh.
Trying to speak to the item.
Oh, my apologies.
If I could just.
Go ahead.
Briefly.
Yes.
Just briefly, I know we've already received it, but for those that haven't actually read the agenda, this is a major milestone in the never-ending saga of trying to find water for the Black Creek Oyster Bay system. It's taken many years and a lot of underperforming wells for us to get to this point. But if you actually read the report, it is an agreement with Patty Evans to get some rights to the side of the property where the aquifer mapping shows the biggest, deepest part of the aquifer. And we now have the ability to drill up to 3 wells in that corridor and bring the water straight through to our water treatment plant. This should bring water security to the Black Creek Oyster Bay system for many years into the future. Thank you.
So we did get an update after all. Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to bylaw number 730, the electoral areas noise control regulation bylaw amendment 3 for adoption.
Move it. Second then.
Grieve and Grant. Okay, and it is a vote of the areas. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll allow the gallery to clear.
Stay for our riveting meeting. I'm sure the rest of the agenda is.
Okay, so that brings us back to item C, adoption of minutes for August 9th.
Second.
Grant and Cole Hamilton, thank you. Any further discussion of those minutes? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. And we're on to delegations, and we have Sunnydale Golf and Country Club first.
Second.
Gillian and Grant, thank you. And we have Wally Pettigrew. and he'll be presenting today. And he has 10 minutes to present. You can come up to the podium. Welcome.
Thank you. Is this working? It is.
It's on.
Thank you very much. I've never been here before, so it's quite interesting. I'm going to give you a little background on our course. Established 1923. It's called the Sandwick Golf Club. It'll be 100th anniversary next year. It was a 9-hole course. And I think it was the first and only course in the valley for quite some time, until one of the members, Mr. Philberg, decided it was too far to travel to go to Sunnydale. So he opened his own course. It's called Comox. And I think those are the two courses that were here for many years. And our course, as it was still called then, Sandwick, we had different owners over quite a number of years. And in 1945, the membership of the golf club incorporated under the Societies Act, and they call themselves the Sunnydale Golf Club. In the late 70s, the golf course property was purchased by 4 men who were from the military, and they planned to redevelop it into 10-acre lots. This didn't go over very well with the membership, and they went to the provincial government to see if they could make a deal. The provincial government met with these 4 men, and they traded properties. They gave them some property down by Fiddler's Green in Nanaimo, and $175,000, which was for the outbuildings and the equipment that was on the golf course. They asked Sunnydale membership to pay it off in a year, which wasn't very likely. And as a result of that, a lease was established, long-term lease, of which the membership, the Sunnydale Society, paid 3% of their gross revenue from everything except the bar and the pro shop. 3% of that revenue went to the provincial government through the regional district. Why it went through the regional district, I'm not sure. I think you were sort of acting as some sort of arbitrary intermediary or something. I'm not really sure what you do. I don't know whether you pass the money on. Do you pass the money on? Probably not. Anyway, the lease, as I say, is 3%. And last year we paid $20,000. And the lease is up at the end of this year. The provincial government told us last time we renegotiated that we would never get 3% again. They have 6 golf courses under this lease operation in the province, and ours was the lowest rate, mainly because we were just a society, I think. Plus, we took them out and showed them our golf course. We showed them all our rundown equipment held together by, rubber bands and whatnot. So they were impressed. Left us at 3%, but that's not going to happen next year. It's going to be 5% or 6%. So that's going to be $40,000 a year in lease payments that we're going to have to come up with. So that is one of the reasons we're asking for a tax exemption. Now, from another point of view, our membership has been declining over the years, mainly because we're an old club. We lose 30 or 40 members every year due to medical disabilities or death. And we hadn't been replacing them much until COVID came along. When COVID came along, our membership went from 207 people to 310 people in just that 1 year. It was amazing, but everybody was out golfing. All the golf courses were really busy. So that really helped us out. And we get almost 50% of our revenue from green fears. Many of them are seniors too. And we do have the lowest rates in the valley. And It's been said that we're called God's waiting room. Most of our members are 75 or older, and we have two golf sheds that hold about 150 carts, more than any other course around. And it enables these older people, including myself, to continue to play golf even with our disabilities. And I think it's a great thing for the Valley. So I'm not going to say anymore. I think that's about it, if that's okay. You got any questions for me?
Yeah, so we'll open it up to questions. Thanks for that history. I don't think anybody here had heard that before, so that's all very interesting. Director Arbour, go ahead.
Thank you. And yeah, indeed, that was really colorful and much more than I expected in terms of the history of the golf club. And I'm sure our CFO is probably like trying to dig to see if we still have the money from all those years ago or if we sent it to the province.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you because there's only in the rural areas, there's only 2 properties that we give tax exemptions to, one being the Union Bay Historical Society and their lands, and yourself, the Sunny. So I think as directors, we had requested to have a little more information on each, and definitely you filled the mandate here with showcasing the benefits that you see for seniors and people who enjoy the outdoors, especially during COVID. So thank you.
Thank you.
Director Hamir.
Thanks, Chair. Oh, if I could ask a couple more questions. Yeah, it was, and I'm going to echo Director Arbour, that was really an interesting history to know how long the golf courses have been in the community. So a couple of questions. Has your membership maintained since COVID? I find that now the restrictions have lifted, everyone's traveling. But
Yes, we have. Our problem this year is that we didn't get started until mid-June.
Yeah.
Because of the wet weather, and we have a real drainage problem. Other courses like Glacier Greens and Story Creek have spent a few $1 million, I think, fixing up their drainage.
Yeah.
We don't have that kind of money, so we're sort of thinking about it. That's about it.
Are you still a 9-hole, or did you?
No, we're 18.
18?
It was in 1983 that the membership developed the back 9.
Wow. And just one last question around water. I mean, you mentioned a lot of it this year, and I think all of the farmers in your area also, including me, felt the impacts of the rain. But when you are having to water your greens, do you have an idea if is it well water or are you storing water?
It is well water, but we do have 2 ponds that they use for doing the fairways and greens.
Okay, thank you.
And we've cut back. I think there's been an order to cut back on usage, so we've done that.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Next we have Director Morin.
Great, thank you, Chair. Sorry, you're on the hot seat there. Yeah, I remember back in during COVID, there was some comments from public around members of the public not able to access the golf course, but I believe that was changed because there was some concern that with the tax exemption that under the language it talks about being open to the public. So I believe my recollection is that was remedied and not that we have COVID now, but if there was another interruption like that
Yes,
of course would be open to
you're quite
all the
right.
public.
We had a meeting when COVID struck, and we thought that as a board, maybe we should just keep it just for the members until we know anything else, which you did. And then we got a call from you guys saying, you got a tax exemption, you should be open. And I, of course, said, well, what are they opening? They got nothing open. So we did open.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it because I did get a query from the public around that. So
Okay.
Thank you for
No
sorting that
problem.
out.
Well, I think we have one more question for you, Director Grieve.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, not to be outdone with colorful historical anecdotes. I can share with you that my dad, Johnny Grieve, after coming back from the war, went out to play around the golf at Sunnydale. and he hit that ball. And you looked for it, you looked for it, you looked for it. Finally found it in the cup. His only hole-in-one in his lifetime. So
Great.
also, talking with the Soul and River Restoration Society, they were also commending you guys on the work you've done, limiting the amount of the American bullfrogs.
Yes.
So you guys have done a spectacular job in limiting them from your ponds. And I'd like to thank you for that
Yeah.
up front.
Yeah, they still have their tadpole catching machines.
It's never ending. But the other one is, if anybody from MOTI is listening, we sure could use a left turnout lane there at Sunnydale. I know that people wait and try to turn left coming north. And I think the last time I brought it up with MOTI, they said, well, have you seen the big shoulders we put on the road? So they put shoulders on the road, almost the size of an actual lane, but no official turning lanes. So maybe one day they'll rectify that one.
That would be
It
wonderful.
could be dangerous.
It would be wonderful.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, yesterday, we saw a cop car come in our driveway, probably chasing somebody that made a left-hand turn.
Probably.
Okay, thank you very much for coming.
Okay, thank you.
So we have item 2, which is the Island Corridor Foundation, but as we found out earlier. Oh, sorry, yes, move on receipt of the last delegation. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Yeah, so item 2, the Island Corridor Foundation, Larry Simonson is ill and unable to make it today. He would like to reschedule for September 20th. So we will skip that item and go to number 3.
And Madam Chair, before you consider item 3, I'll remove myself from the meeting as my wife is the chair of the Land Commission. I don't participate in these decisions of the regional district. Thank you. And I could just ask Jake to sit in my place.
Thank you. Okay. So item 3 is subdivision within the agricultural land reserve on Farnham Road. Amir and Arbor, thank you. And do we have Andy Flynn here? Oh, there he is. Welcome. You can come up to the podium. And you have 10 minutes to present, and then we'll have questions after if you're willing.
Okay, little bigger audience and different faces. So last couple of times I've been here. So yeah, thank you for allowing me this few minutes here to speak. I don't know if this is allowed or not, but I know this motion is to vote yea or nay on my application. So I would just like to start by requesting that a motion to move this application forward with a new staff report supporting it once the board hears my points, if that's an option. If it's not an option and we're just going to vote no, then I respectfully request that I be allowed to withdraw my application to better prepare and then reapply at a later date. And I'm not looking for the application fee to be returned. So I don't know if I can answer that.
The decision is not made today. So this is just for information. It is. Oh,
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I can just clarify that as noted on the agenda, item F1 under the Electoral Area Services Committee from August 4th, or sorry, that's staff board date, but the August 8th meeting provides for the recommendation of the ESC to refuse the application.
at the ESC meeting.
Yeah, and so Mr. Flynn is here to as to delegate regarding that recommendation of the ESC, which would now be considered for ratification at the board tonight.
Okay. So that is a different procedure than we would usually have, because we don't usually make a decision when the delegation is presenting that night.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So in this case, it is a somewhat unique situation in which the applicant has spoke to the board in regards to the application. The committee has considered those comments and the staff report from staff, and then made a recommendation to refuse the application. That recommendation now comes forward to the board to tonight's meeting, in which then the electoral area directors will consider ratification of that recommendation from their meeting. Mr. Flynn has taken the opportunity to delegate again now at this opportunity in which before the committee or the board considers ratifying the recommendation from the EA committee. So it's not typical, but it's certainly allowed under the process. And so he's taking this opportunity to express his desires, if that clarifies matters. And in regards to his requests, certainly it is an option for the board to refer this matter back to the ESC committee. I would suggest that would be a decision of the EA director should make in regards to this application, as it is an EA matter, or they could take another course of action as he suggests. But certainly this is a discussion of the electoral area committee members and would be best undertook there at that committee.
Okay, thank you. So would you like to proceed?
Yeah, a lot of words there I didn't understand, but okay. So let me just start by saying that this has been a very confusing process for me. I'm learning lots as I go. I came in with a simple application, which turned into several meetings. This is the 5th meeting I've been here, answering and kind of saying the same thing over and over in kind of a different audience. And what I leave with and what I'm confused with is I get recommendations and advice on what I can do with my property rather than evaluate the application on the merits pertaining to section 514. In the earlier meetings, questions were asked of me. I explained the staff reports, the second staff report that came out. And again, it seems the goalposts are moving a little bit every time I come back. It's changing and they want something new, or they have another reason why my additional information that was submitted that wasn't required as part of the application doesn't meet their rules and bylaws. Section 514, it seems to be what's confusing staff, myself, and maybe the agriculture committee that is giving me this advice on how I should go about my property rather than actually talking about section 514, which allows me to do certain things. So 514 simply, it allows the appropriate approving authority, which is the Ministry of Transportation, not the staff, to make the final approval of an application that does not meet regional district parcel sizes, zoning, or bylaws. This application, there's several points I want to go through from the report. I know I have 10 minutes, I'll go through them. The application is in line with the ALCA goals and guidelines. The objectives that they want, but the staff states otherwise. It seems like there's personal opinions being said rather than I've met the requirements, but I'm getting personal feedback onto why it's not working and why someone feels it's not agricultural land, farming. It's not an actual farm. These kind of things. So I'm going to take the steps. One thing I learned through all this process, I read the regional growth strategy. I read the community plan. I don't see a section there where it strictly deals with section 514. What I see is a section where it deals with subdivision and AR land. But there's not a mechanism in which you just follow the and maybe I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but I'm not seeing it. But the comments I'm getting back are that as if I applied for just a subdivision in ALR land, which is not the case because 514 allows you not to meet those requirements. So one of the comments that, the referral was sent out to the Ministry of Agriculture. And so one of the earlier comments were that I didn't submit a farm plan. So how can I show that I'm benefiting the community through farming? So I was asked to submit a farm plan. I submitted the farm plan. I'm a professional forester designated with, for the last 25 years in this industry. I submitted a farm plan, which is a Christmas tree farm plan. I feel I'm qualified. I'm told that the last time they put it in, that the farm plan was not adequate, didn't address the issues, and felt they couldn't, felt it didn't meet any of the requirements. They referred back that I should go to their website and follow their steps. I went through their website, I followed their steps. It's a 35-page document in which, if you're going to fund, look for financing, stuff to this, that you would do something of that nature. If I wanted to create a 35-page document and bore the audience with this reading material, which I don't think would get read, comments that were made to me from the agricultural committee showed that the actual 1.5-page farm plan was not read, because comments were made. And how am I going to access it? I'm not putting a driveway up through the middle of the existing property. It's all stated in the farm plan how I'm attaching it. So I can see there's that a 35-page document isn't going to help the process. Yes, a farm plan can be put together. I'm a business owner of 30 years. I know how to run a business successfully. I got 15 employees. And for them to tell me that it's not meeting the adequate things, I just feel it's not necessary. It's not being taken into consideration here. So I just want to go through the staff report, a couple of quick things here, and I'll wrap this up. So, and this is all in if somebody wants to pull it up or reread it, but the advisory committee said it was a good farm plan, but it's hard to justify subdivision when there's not an operational farm in place on the original remaining parcel, and when the agriculture regulations allows for a second residence. I'm not asking for a second residence, I'm asking for subdivision, and this is the thing. I'd like to know what the definition of farm is, because I believe that there's not a blanket, just a farm can be anything, but for someone to say it's not an operational farm, that's a very individual opinion, I feel. And what I think is farm, what you think is farm might be something different. The farm lacked key components of a traditional plan and recommends that the proposed farm plan be implemented via an additional residence without a subdivision. So more advice on what I should be doing rather than whether do I meet the 514 or not. The regional growth strategy and official community plan discourages fragmentation of ALR land in order to proceed to preserve continuous area of farmland. The proposal is not consistent with the direction of the overall plan. There's no discernible benefit to agriculture for this. And I've gone through this with everyone at all meetings. I'll do it one more time. When you take a raw piece of land and you actually put it into a farming piece of land, how is that not a benefit to the ALR, like farming? For the staff to say that there's no discernible benefit when I submitted a farm plan, it's just, these are the things that are confusing to me. And again, we can go into more detail if there's questions. It's a standing piece of raw timbered land that's never ever been farmed a day in its life. I'm going to convert it into a working Christmas tree farm with a home for my son. There's going to be stands. There's going to be a hobby farm attached to it. That is not a benefit to the ALR community and the staff size. The farm plan does not make reference to the proposal for the remainder parcel. Why do I have to indicate where did it ask me to do this in the application for the remaining 8 hectares of my property? Why is that important in this decision as to the application? So it's another reason that they deferred it or requesting that it not move forward. Section 58.12 of the bylaw 337, the Rural Comox Valley Community Plan from 2014, makes a state, requires that applicants proposing to subdivide land in agricultural area demonstrate how it proposes it will benefit the agriculture and aquaculture community. My farm plan has not done that. These meetings, I have expressed this to everyone, that is not, it's falling on deaf ears. I'm not sure what it is they want to see. Do they want to see a dairy farm? Do they want to see, like, I don't know what it is. So trees are agricultural product. It's on their website. It's considered. You can get a tax credit when you have a Christmas tree farm. It's been there for 20, 25 years. But it's not showing that I don't meet the requirements here. Based on the agricultural committee and the regional ergos, at this time, I'm going to hinder growth, success of the farm on making the subdivisions inconsistent with 58 section 10 of the community plan to discourage reduction and or area of a viable farm operation. They're making references here to it seems confusing to me as to what they're the 5810, because it was 5812 last week, and the week before that it was 58.8. They just keep finding pieces to say I'm still not meeting the definition. Again, it's a very opinionated personal thing rather than a sequence of steps when you're dealing with an act, which is a legal requirement. And it's to me as if they're approving this. They're not approving it. You're simply a mechanism for the ALC in Burnaby to do the paperwork for them and then send it to them. They're acting as if they're making the final decision here. And unfortunately, when you folks come in here, you've never seen me, you have no idea what's going on here. You read the staff report, and right from day one, right to now, you're hearing what they're saying, and they're setting the precedent what everyone should be thinking. And rightfully so, you just gotta make an opinion on it on 10 minutes here.
Yep. I think you've given us a good indication of what the process has been like for you and your side of the story. Are you open to questions?
Oh, yes. Yep.
All right. Are there any questions from directors? Yes, we have some, starting with Director Grieve.
Thanks very much, and thank you for coming here before us and presenting your case. As you know, we had some zooming in problems at our Electoral Area Services Committee on this. But what has to be remembered is this is on agricultural land reserve. So obviously you understand that a lot of other conditions apply that wouldn't apply if you weren't in the ALRs.
Yep.
As you know, we don't make these decisions in a vacuum. Not only do we read the report, but we also have our own advisory groups like the Agriculture Advisory Panel Commission and our own Area C Planning Commission. And, when you look at all the documentation, it's very difficult to endorse this application, even though we're not the gatekeepers on it. We just forward it through. But, when you read Angela Boss, the district agrologist, didn't support it. The Agriculture Advisory Planning Commission didn't support it. It seems like there's a lot of stuff stacked against you, not least of which is the fact you're left with a 2.3 hectare parcel out there on Farnham Road or Wynn Road, depending where you access it from. So, obviously, if you know anything about this particular board that we have right now, that at least the electoral areas, so we try to bend over backwards for 514 applications. But in this one here, because of the extra encumbrances of being in the ALR and the fact that all the agencies are saying no, makes it very difficult for us to go ahead and approve it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Director Arbor.
Yeah, thanks. And I guess I'm just trying to clarify your request is I think initially you said if the vote was going to be no, you would prefer that we just defer it and you withdraw the application. But Because is it because if we actually vote no, you can't reapply for a certain amount of time? Is that the rationale for your request?
No, you got 1 year waiting period.
Yeah, I have a 1 year waiting period, hence your request. Thank you. I'll let Dr. Hamir speak.
Dr. Hamir.
Thanks. So maybe, first of all, my question to staff, because I heard the comment about section 514 and the ALCA Act, the Agricultural Land Commission Act. Could staff comment on what supersedes what? Like what act has precedence over if, if there's a, I heard some contradictions. So what level of, or which act is the higher level?
Thanks. So I could ask Lana Mullally, General Manager at Planning Development, just to respond to the question.
Sorry.
Chair, thanks very much, directors. This really is the kids' table, the kids section of the table. There, got it. Thank you so much.
You can hardly see you at the best of times.
You look like you're praying.
It's true. I might, yeah. To Director Hamir, thanks very much. You're absolutely right. And Mr. Flynn, thank you for sharing your process with the directors. In normal cases of 514, normal as in outside of the agricultural land reserve, the approving officer, who's at arm's length, the Ministry of Transportation, indeed has that discretion to make that decision. And we provide just at the staff level a recommendation. In this case, a little bit different, wherein the provincial approving officer cannot approve a subdivision in the agricultural land reserve without getting the approval of the Agricultural Land Commission. So a little bit different there. And so in terms of where this board comes in, the Act provides discretionary authority on these kinds of applications, subdivision, to the local government to provide a recommendation. So staff provides a recommendation to the board, and it's this board, in fact, that is that sort of gatekeeper role in terms of assessing whether or not, based on local conditions, based on the feedback from the farming community, the applicant, staff, the regional agrologist, et cetera, to provide that insight into local conditions on whether or not the local government thinks that the Agricultural Land Commission should consider the application for subdivision. And so in that, there is the ability for the local government, yourselves, to say, we don't support this application for these reasons, and therefore we're opting not to send the application through to the Land Commission for further consideration. That's the difference here. So thank you.
Okay. And if I just a follow up for you, Alana, through the chair, is when this board, mostly the electoral areas, makes that decision, we do need to make it with the agricultural lands, not just the 514 lens, if that's my understanding. And I'm seeing a nod, so.
Yeah, through Madam Chair to the directors, the 514, as Director Grieve has said, this board, specifically the rural directors, because it's their planning function that comes to this table, have, as in Director Grieve's words, have bent over backwards for applicants, trying to respond to those family needs to provide residence for a relative, which is the provision for 514. These subdivisions, they use 514 as the legislative tool to create subdivision in the agricultural land reserve. You'll know that long-time farming operations have the benefit of using something called the home site severance. This is not that, which provides for the retiring farmer scenarios. This is something different. So yeah, nuance, quite different from others you've seen.
Thanks for that clarification. So, with that background, I'm going to ask Andy, like your current property, do you have farm status on it? And I think that's probably one of the reasons that all of the different bodies have picked up on commitment to agriculture. Yes, I understand a tree farm can be, a farm, but without status, for me, it shows a lack of commitment to go on the agricultural route. And, it's not difficult to get agricultural status, as I've tried to change, but, that's another story. $2,500 of sales for your size property is all you would need. And it's a BC assessment would come and assess your land as agricultural. So I think maybe that's the nuance that was lost in some of the reports, was the commitment to agriculture. I know you've presented a plan, But, and from my experience and with other communities, it's very easy to provide a plan and then subdivision happens and that plan is never enacted. And unfortunately, then we're left with two very small parcels, which make it much more difficult to farm economically. And so if we don't see a commitment to agriculture prior to the subdivision, I think post subdivision, it makes it even more difficult. So, that's my, reason for supporting what the staff comments and what our agricultural AAC comments and our regional agrologist is just the commitment to agriculture. I didn't see it. So that's my.
Can I just a quick comment back? You're not allowed to apply for 514 if you have farm status. That's why there's no status on the property.
Yeah, and I guess what we didn't see is the prior ag status and the commitment to, to go along that route. So.
Next, we have Director Arbor.
Yeah, thanks. And there's numerous staff and advisory, I guess that kind of, that's the advice we're receiving. I also hear the applicant saying, we are a gateway for the ALC and ultimately we could forward it, but maybe some of those comments would stand. I would actually like to give the runner a chance here and just not vote on this tonight and let it sort of expire. I guess we can ask our staff what's the better route, but if you want to withdraw his application, rework, and then, you can come back to this board when the APC or others are satisfied with it. I think that's what you're asking tonight rather than a firm no. I would lean that way because otherwise I would probably lean in the other direction as Dr. Amir said.
So maybe we could get some staff advice on how that might work.
Madam Chair, certainly it's an option for the board to defer the matter to a future date. That's September 20th. That is an option. However, I would invite any comments from Ms. Mullally just in regards to any other approaches or past practice in regards to applications. And I guess I don't see a need here necessarily for a referral to the ESC, but if there's further discussion or information being sought from staff, that would seem appropriate. But if more time is needed, certainly a deferral would be appropriate.
Thank you, Jake. Through Madam Chair, is there a specific piece of information that you'd be looking for staff to obtain in the interim? I wonder.
It's one of our last meetings. Funny we have a complicated one like that, but how can I best say it? I am sort of hoping that during the deferral period, the withdrawal will be performed as suggested by the applicant. So no, there is no further information. I think if this came back, it would be for the purpose of giving the applicant a chance to withdraw. And I don't know if we can do that. So that's a legislative question again. I know with Saratoga, there was a withdrawal or rezoning. I understand that those applications become property of the board at this stage. So if we dispense with it, there would be a 1-year period. I'm trying to say if we defer or if we refer to the ASC, perhaps in that interim, the applicant will withdraw the application and we'll just get a notification of withdrawal by the next CASC. Otherwise, I would expect it might just. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Through Madam Chair, this one is a little bit different in that this is an application that Mr. Flynn has made to the Agricultural Land Commission. So this isn't our application. So I would have to double check the policies of the ALC around his reapplication rights. It doesn't fall under our procedures and fees bylaw. And I'm sorry, but I'm not prepared to confirm that just now.
At this stage, in that case, I will just simply move to refer it to the ESC September 19th meeting.
After the delegation is received. Yeah. Dr. Hamir, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess my question was along the same lines as Director Arbor's is that you clarified. So it's not our application. It's already been an application to the ALC. So would the advice be to the applicant to withdraw from the ALC and cancel that application?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, through Madam Chair. I think probably what we can do in the spirit of this conversation and to assist Mr. Flynn would just be, following this meeting, we'll reach out to our ALC planning contacts, just confirm what their process is and how they would recommend dealing with their application. And then we can report that to you on the 19th at Electoral Area Services Committee, if that works. Thanks.
That sounds good. And I don't see any further questions. So all in favor of receipt? Anyone opposed? Okay, would you like to make the referral now? Seconded by Hamir. That would be the referral of the ALR to C22 Flam the Tulip subdivision to the ASC meeting on September 19th. Any further discussion?
Everybody, just electoral?
Just electoral.
So a vote of the areas. Go ahead, Director Arbor.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to say in 4 years, I think it's the first one where we end up in this situation. We do dispense with those applications usually at ESC and come with a formal, but I appreciate, the appeal to the board at the last hour. I would like to also say that I actually think it's a good thing that we have that process of gatekeeping. I think that if we had in other areas such as shipbreaking, for example, I think it's good that the province granted an interaction with the community where community members, RAPCs, the electoral area committee get to weigh in, even though the final decision lies with the province. In this case, it ends up a little bit awkward, but it's more the exception than the norm in my experience. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion's on the floor. It's vote of the areas. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. And thank you for your presentation tonight.
So do I need to be at this meeting or is that a closed door? This next meeting that's happening?
Oh, you're welcome to stay.
No. I mean, you guys just voted. There's another meeting September 15th or 18th. Do I
The
need to be here for
19th
this?
will be the next time it will be considered. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, so that takes us to reports. We have the Electoral Area Service Committee minutes from August 8th, moved by Grieve, seconded by Arbor. Any further discussion of those minutes? Seeing none, it's a vote full board. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. And recommendation 1 is the development variance permit for Seaview Road, moved by Grieve, seconded by Arbor. It's a vote of the areas. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
And Madam
no,
Chair, I'll just review it myself.
No, we referred that already, so
Okay.
we're not doing that. You don't have to remove yourself.
What about 3? 3 I do.
Oh, yes, 3,
For the same
yeah.
reasons. Try to be a little quicker.
Okay, we'll just take a pause while our CAO leaves the room. Okay, so recommendation 3 is the agricultural land reserve application for Ham Road. Moved by Arbor, seconded by Hamir, and Hamir, you would like to speak?
Yeah, for all of those who are watching and for the rest of the board, I don't want, this application recommendation number 3 is very much in line, a subdivision of an already existing farm that has been farming for, many, many decades. And so I think we saw the commitment to agriculture was very clear. It was not a difficult decision to make. I think it's very different from the previous decision. So just want to say that, we're not against divisions, like subdivisions, when we see that it benefits, in this case, it's a family member who's coming onto the farm, is going to support farm production. So.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, I don't see any further questions. It's a vote of the areas for recommendation 3. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. And moving to recommendation 4. So moved by Grant, seconded by Arbor, and that is the external agency referral for the Rural Comox Valley Official Community Plan Bylaw. Any further discussion? Okay, and again, vote of the areas. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. On to 5. Arbor and Grieve, thank you. And the recommendation 5 is the financial plan and capital expenditure for Union Bay Water Local Service Area. Any further discussion, Director Grieve or Arbor?
Yeah, thanks. This, I'll just highlight to the board that I think over this term, you saw the folding of the Union Bay Improvement District into the regional district. Part of the vote was to have the opportunity for regional district to assign or apply for grants for the water system. And while this is a small amount, I believe it's worth highlighting that we'll be using a community building fund for this piece of water infrastructure. And I think that's a first anyways, in terms of us applying some grants to that water system. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's a vote of the full board. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. And we're on to recommendation 6. Grant and Arbor, and it is the financial plan for the liquid waste management planning service of the sewer extension south project. Any further discussion? Director Arbor.
Thank you. This one is actually quite momentous, and I'm really excited as we finish the term that I want to thank again the member here who are part of the Sewage Commission as well. And we're grateful in Area 8 to be part, an addendum now to the liquid waste management plan for the Comox Valley. And I think some of those sums will be utilized as well as we undergo that work and set up the Public Advisory Committee. So really excited to see that moving forward as we close out the term.
Great, thank you for that. That is exciting. So this is a vote of the areas. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And on to recommendation 7, which is the new service agreement for Denman Works Economic Enhancement Society. Grant and Grieve, thank you. And is there any further discussion on this, Director Arbor?
Yeah, and this one is a small increase, but I'm really glad to see the organization will undertake, I think it's first strategic plan in a long time, and we've been discussing that. So that's what that extra amount is for. And I think it'll be to the benefit of Denman Island. So thanks to the organization for that.
Thank you. And this is a vote of the full board. All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried unanimously. We're on to item 2, the Comox Valley Sewage Commission minutes from August 9th. Hillian and Moran, thank you. Any discussion on those minutes? A vote of the full board, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Hillian and Arbor move the recommendation.
And Madam Chair, just for the benefit of the other directors and the public that may be on the line, the significance of this decision. This is the conveyance project for the sewage system. It will replace the conveyance line and upgrade pump stations from the Courtney pump station all the way through the town of Comox, drilling under Lazo Hill to get to the sewage treatment plant. It will be delivered in 2 separate contracts, a design build for the rural areas and a design bid build, which enabled us to have a greater, more fulsome engagement with the town of Comox for the portion within their community. It will also see cooperation and collaboration with the town of Comox in the delivery of possibly up to 5 street works, including 2 traffic circles within the town, and there will be public engagement through the fall on this matter.
Yeah, just that little thing. Okay, Director Grieve, go ahead.
So just to be clear, is this about $90 million we're talking here? Is there a possibility the electoral areas can actually kill us right now? We get to vote on it. Just trying to set the record straight here.
Director Hillian.
Thanks, Chair. And contrary to the suggestion that I was trying to rapid fire the meeting, I tend to try and move items that come from areas of responsibility, and that's all that's happening there. I just did want to say, though, that this is, I believe, another very significant mark on this previous term that we've come through. And I think this will rank up there with the water treatment plant among the major capital accomplishments of this board. It's a huge project that will have implications for our communities for years to come. And of course, the most immediate implication is that we take away the environmental risk posed by the force main along the Willamar Bluffs. So I want to acknowledge all the work of staff in bringing this to fruition. And I just want to encourage everyone who remains around the table for the coming term to support this project going forward. And hopefully we can make it the best that it can be, minimize this significant disruption to Comox and the residents of the Lazo area, and bring another one home in fine style. Unfortunately, it won't be on budget, but hopefully it will be on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director Grant, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So just, I can't remember what the contingency is on this. We've watched the costs really rising a lot, and I just want to make sure that we have enough set aside to make this project go through. So I forget what the number was on the contingency, but I seem to think there was one that was fairly good.
Madam Chair, we are providing a fairly significant contingency in the order of 30 to 40% for the majority of the project. Right now, we are out to the procurement process for the design build portion, and when the results of that come in, we will be reporting the results of that to the Sewage Commission and reflecting on the budget moving forward for this project.
Okay, I don't see any further questions. Director Armour.
Yeah, I do want to congratulate the Sewage Commission because it's exciting to think that maybe in 10 years from now, the Union Bay flows will go through a brand new pipe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so it is a vote of the full board. And I think we're there. So all in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, and we've already done item 3. So we move on to item 4, the vice chair roles and responsibilities. Grant and Arbor, thank you. I'll pass it to staff.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And at your request, we provide this for your consideration, and Jake Martins is to explain what has been changed with respect to the roles and responsibilities.
Thank you, Russell, and through the chair. Yes, so at the August 9th meeting, the board gave final reading to an amendment to the board remuneration and expenses bylaw. That amendment made adjustments to the chair remuneration as well as the directors, and included a new amount for the vice chair to be provided as well. Following that final reading being given, the board directed staff come back to you with some further information on the roles and responsibilities specific to the vice chair. And so this report follows up on that, as Russell mentioned. There's 3 existing policies which relate to the roles and responsibilities of the directors. That is P45, which concerns the chair and vice chair, policy 46, which is specific to the electoral area directors, and policy 47, which is specific to the municipal directors. All 3 of these policies were developed around the 2013 mark with the assistance of George Cuff, I understand, who was a governance consultant assisting the board for providing further clarity around the roles and responsibilities of the board. The board will note the limited content or consideration of the vice chair position. And while we don't have the full explanation of the board at the time regarding that, I highly suspect that that is a result of the limited statutory guidance around the vice chair role. Essentially, the Local Government Act provides that the vice chair has, during the absence, illness, or other disability of the chair, all the powers of the chair, and is subject to all the rules applicable to the chair. And that's about as far as it goes. And so it leaves the door wide open to certainly questions around what the full extent and responsibility of the vice chair may be. And in this regard, we've certainly seen a variety of practices, and the board discussed this at the previous meeting around the level of involvement and the level of assistance provided to the chair in fulfilling the chair's duties and responsibilities. So given the limited statutory, or given that the statutory responsibility focuses all of that around the chair role, and that the chair position and the vice chair position is an election that's conducted annually, it's anticipated by staff that that has the potential to change frequently based on the individual in the chair role, their preferences and desires, their leadership style and otherwise. And so staff is suggesting some broad and enabling language within the policy to essentially allow that to shift over time. It does reduce the ability to specify a specific duty that the vice chair would undertake, but again, I think what we're proposing here is to allow that flexibility and allow that collaboration between the chair and vice chair on an annual basis to determine what fits the situation best. In that regard, the final thing I'll note here is just that we, and I apologize as well, there was an update made to the staff board yesterday, which we've noted on the agenda. Our proposed changes to the policy were not included when it was originally posted, and that was just an error in the final processing of that report. So we tried to address that, and we've included some proposed changes just to simplify and consolidate the policy a bit better in our view. So with that, Madam Chair, if you please answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much. We'll start with Director Arbor.
Yeah, thanks. And as the one who put the motion forward last meeting, I want to say, yeah, thank you for coming back with it. It's still, as you say, leave it pretty broad. And I'm sure staff was toiling for days and days, whether to write may attend weekly meetings or will attend weekly meetings. There's a vast sea of difference between the two. But I'm glad that we have something about the vice chair so that, when somebody receives a yearly stipend, it's good to be able to stack it against a general set of tasks, which wasn't there. I still believe that maybe next term we should look at if there's a stipend for the vice chair. I believe that some of the committees, if not all the committees, could be considered for stipend. I'll reiterate when I say I understand why Director Hillian loudly moved the item on sewage when you're working on a $90 million project and you're the chair. I think you take extra care and responsibility in that, and that could be reflected as it is with the vice chair in some form of acknowledgement and remuneration, but we'll leave that for 4 years from now. Thanks.
Thank you. Next we have Director Hamir.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to staff for doing such a great job of reviewing the statutory requirements. And I understand the need to kind of keep things broad so that there's flexibility, is from what I hear. My only question was, and maybe this is something to the rest of the board, since this board has decided to provide that stipend to the vice chair position, I do feel that there are some, at least minimum requirements that should be met. And I'm wondering if the board would be interested in removing the may in front of meet with chair and CAO regularly. I think, with the stipend, I think that would be at least some bare minimum that the vice chair would have to be attending those executive meetings so that they're up to date on what's happening. But other than that, I guess one question is, do staff feel that it's clear in the responsibilities and duties that the vice chair may take the role of chairing certain other committees like solid waste or potentially hospital, if that came to be? Is there enough room in the language right there that shows that could potentially be a responsibility? Because I only saw the chair of the board of directors outlined, but do we need to provide language for the other committees that could potentially?
Through the chair, so certainly in the scenario that right now in which you co-chair the solid waste board, that does function as the CVRD board, and so it is captured within that first bullet point there. So in that regard, I think staff are comfortable that it accommodates that type of arrangement.
All right, then I'll just leave with the potential removal of the word may. And that's third bullet point under the vice chair responsibility.
Dr. Graves.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through the chair of CAO to Jake. When I was chair, I was chastised a couple of times for speaking out of school. I was told that anything the chair says has to be supported by board resolutions. And I have been concerned in the last term that there's been some instances where letters have gone out under the letterhead of the chair that were not reflected in board resolutions, but were more the opinion of the chair. And I know it's not a hard and fast rule. I think last time I talked, you said, well, if there's some board policy that supports it, it's okay. But my understanding is that, it's like a mayor, you're never not speaking for your council. You're never not speaking for your board. So I would, you know, and I don't think anything's going to be put in stone here, but I would strongly recommend that at the very least, the vice chair is aware of this, and at the most that any really breaking issues that pertain to the board and direction should come to the board before letters are written off to senior ministers, et cetera, et cetera. And that's about it. The only other thing is attend community events as requested. We all know that there are some elected officials in the Comox Valley that attend everything. I think the mayor of Cumberland is one of those. And then there's some other ones who never see hide nor hair of them. But it is very important, I think, to the public to have that visual, to have the representation as much as possible. So when you have a fish and game dinner or the chamber awards ceremony or whatever, that we have some face of this governing body at that event. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any further lights or any further questions. There was one recommended amendment, which was, I think, changing the may meet with the chair and CAO regularly for the agendas to shall meet. Is that? So do we want to discuss that further? Director Arbor?
I recommend just meet. Just start with meet with the chair and CEO regularly to review agendas, because shall sounds a little bit like, otherwise you will go to vice chair jail.
Okay, so just meet with chair and CAO regularly. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. And I think then we can, once received, we can move as amended then. Okay, all in favor of receipt? Anyone opposed? It's carried. And there is a motion.
Second.
Moved by Grant, seconded by Arbor, and that's policy P45, being roles and responsibilities of the board chair and vice chair, be amended as per discussion today. And the staff report. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We're on to bylaws and resolutions for adoption. First, we have 716, which is the Sewage Service Establishment Bylaw.
Second.
Grant and Helian, thank you. And it is for adoption, and it's a vote of the full board. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously. We're on to item 2. That's the bylaw 717. It's a municipal ticket information bylaw. Grant and Hamir, thank you. And it's for adoption, and it's a vote of the areas. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Director Gray, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm going to hold my, I lost my place on this, but this is, sorry. Okay, this is it. This is the noise bylaw. And it sets the maximum amount of fine at $1,000. Is that correct?
I believe we are on the municipal ticket information bylaw, is it not?
Okay,
Yes.
that's the next one on.
Yes, we're on
The-
number 2.
And the
I'm
noise,
looking for 717. It's not there yet.
yeah, and the noise bylaw was considered previously.
Yeah. We've already passed it.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Item
well,
6.
just a quick question on that, though. I mean, it may be out of order, and I can be ruled out of order on this, but it does say operation of a motor vehicle for auto racing at a prohibited time. But is that to the operator of the motor vehicle?
Yes, so this is ticketing for the noise bylaw, right?
So-
Yeah.
So the actual operator of the vehicle is the one getting $1,000 fine.
I'll pass that to staff.
The offense is the operation of a motor vehicle for auto racing.
Kind of open, isn't it? That's why lawyers love us. Thank you.
Okay, so it is for adoption. It's a vote of the areas. Oh, we lost one of the areas. Okay, all in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay, so we're on to item 3, bylaw 721. That's the adjudication ticketing bylaw, moved by Grant, seconded by Hillian. It's a vote of the areas. It's for adoption. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And we're on to bylaw 727, the property tax exemption bylaw for Sunnydale Golf Course. Grant and Hillian again. Again, it's for adoption. It's for the full board. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 5, bylaw 728, property tax exemption for Union Bay Historical Society. That's moved by Grant, seconded by Moran. It's again vote of the full board. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried unanimously. Okay, we've already done item 6, and there is new business. We'll need to vote on whether we will accept that or not. Motion for the addendum to be considered, moved by Hillian, seconded by Arbor. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And then we'll move. Thank you. So move receipt by Hillian, seconded by Arbor for the general investment in the island coastal region. And so this is a letter from Island Coastal Economic Trust. They are going to be putting forward a recapitalization package for the province, which also includes governance changes to broaden the governance to First Nations communities. And yes, they're going to hopefully be doing this, giving the package at UBCM. And so that's why there is a bit of a rush on this letter of support. And I'm happy to answer any further questions if there are any. Director Arbor.
Yeah, thank you. So it's definitely a change of model for ICT. They've been a drawdown fund, and this would bring them in par with the Northern Economic Trust, which is basically more like a trust fund where you spend the interest.
Right.
150 million sounds like a reasonable amount for the size of Vancouver Island. I'm hopeful the province will bite, but we'll see. So essentially, we're asking the province for close to $1 billion between the ICF and the Island Coastal Trust. And I'm sure they'll deliver. Thank you.
Yeah, you're correct. It's been a sinking fund where we've had to use the capital to fund the projects over the years. So it dwindles down. And so that's why if it's not recapitalized over the next year and a bit, it'll be wound up in 2024. And we won't have any trust at all for the islands and Sunshine Coast after that. So it's pretty important. It's a very valuable fund. And even at that level, at 150 million, we will still be less per capita than other funds in the north or in the interior. Director Grieve.
Thank you very much. So just for the record, this is the second recapitalization of ICT.
I think it actually is
3.
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
This is the third one.
This will be the 4th, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so is it going to go on forever?
Yeah, it's
Because it was
just
brought in basically as an emergency measure
Yeah.
to compensate for losses in the forest industry. So now it's just become another slush fund.
Well, it's never been capitalized to the point where they can hold the capital and do the projects with the interest made on it, which is the case for the other funds in the province. It's only been capitalized to such a small amount that it just keeps dwindling down. That's what the sinking fund is. And so we haven't had the same level of equity as far as funding as the rest of the province.
And maybe management too. My question also is around the First Nation participation. My understanding was some First Nations are already participating and have been for a while. So it's just Treaty First Nations?
It's the legislation itself that just precludes First Nations at all. And I think the ICE has taken upon itself to try and include First Nations communities, but we would actually like the province to include it from a legislative perspective.
I would think that's a no-brainer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Director Arbour? Oh,
I'd like to trigger some comments. The first one being that I take a little bit of exception. I realize it's an opinion, but I don't consider the ICE a slush fund. I just want to say that. I think prior to my job as an elected official here, I work with nonprofits, and communities up and down the coast have seen valuable projects. ICE is often the first funder at early stage to commit a little bit of money. Often that attracts further diligence from other partners, private partners, federal, provincial government. And so what I would like to highlight, so that we don't give the impression that we're advocating for a slush fund, is that the letter includes some example of ICE funded project in the Comox Valley over the last 15 years that have added value to our communities. One example on Hornby Island, my home community, would be the doubling of the marina, which we were under a ton of pressure, and ICE was there early and helped us toward close to $1.5 million investment when ICE itself only put a fraction of that amount. But they were there all along the project supporting it, and they have a very small staff team, I think of 2 people. I think most government that do funding could learn a thing or two about the efficiency of an organization like ICE. Thank you.
thank you. And there certainly are lots of examples. And I think, as you said, it is great for giving legitimacy to a lot of these projects. Once it's funded by ICE, they're very good at guiding projects through their process. And yeah, that we actually just opened a parklet in Courtney beside the museum this morning that was funded by ICE. So here's one example just from today. All right, so I don't see any further lights. We're on receipt of the letter. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of receipt? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, and Helene has moved the recommendation to write a letter of support for recapitalization, seconded by Cole Hamilton. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. And we are going to move back in camera.